between a fairy tale and a folk tale?
A folk tale is like passed from generation. Is like when they the stories are campfire, like you like hear them constantly, like Bigfoot story or something.
Very good.
Fairy tale is like princesses and stuff like that. Magic.
They're written down. Very good. You're the only person that's doing that. I'm so proud of that. Well, you didn't raise your hand. I didn't. How do I can't read. I don't see the think bubble. I know it's there, but I can't always read it. You know, I get my 3D glasses on. Okay, so a folk tale is, as she said, as Zoe said, it is passed down tradition to tradition. And it's also usually in rhymes and in threes so that people can easily remember it. Okay? And a fairy tale is written. But they both have, what do they both have in common?
Make-believe.
They're make-believe, so what's another word for make-believe?
Fiction. Fiction.
And they usually have
Magic.
magic. Yeah, because in the monkey's paw, he comes back. She wishes him to come back, and he comes back as a zombie. That's another good way we can end it. And we don't know what the dad's third wish was. What do you think it was?
For his son to stay dead.
Yeah, stay dead. Go back dead. We're going to watch a little, I found a really small little 15-minute clip tomorrow so that sort of cement it for y'all that missed the story. Because I know some of you were out on that trip when we went over it. So, all right, another thing is pixies. Pixies and fairies. Do we think they're cute little people from Peter Pan?
Not always.
They're not. They, back in the day, in Irish lore, folklore, they used to be very evil creatures. They, see where they took a picture of that tree? There's a person in the tree. They used to turn people into trees. That's what they say. They were not very nice. And nursery rhymes and fairy tales were not sweet little things. In Little Red Riding Hood, the danger is don't talk to strangers. So Little Red does not get rescued by a woodcutter. What happens to her?
She gets eaten by the wolf.
She gets eaten by the wolf. That's right. And Cinderella, the three sisters don't just try on the shoes and then get dressed and go to the ball. No. What happens to them?
The first stepsister, since her feet were too big, she had to cut off her toe for her foot to fit in.
That's right. And then and she couldn't walk, so the birds came and pecked her eyes out. They used to be very strong stories. We have evolved. We're protecting our children now. That's part of that movement and migration. Children do have rights. But yeah, it's pretty severe, isn't it? Yes. Questions?
Is Cinderella a long time ago when it was made?
Yes.
His sister got exposed?
Yeah, they cut off their toes so that they could shove their feet into the slipper. What would be the theme of that? Why would they do that? Why would they feel the need to do that?
Just to hurt somebody.
What would they want so desperately? What was being offered up? Here's the glass slipper.
Somebody.
So what's motivating them to cut their own feet off? What motivates you to do something like that?
Read. Read.
Ma'am.
On YouTube, they have the true stories of like all the fairy tales.
Where's this?
YouTube. It's just videos.
Oh, really?
Like creepy videos.
Did you find this yourself? We think alike. I'll be looking for those. All right, so today, I've got this little India figure here just to remind us of our little story. Today, we are going to look at a story called The Seven Ravens. I want you to look at your sheets of paper very quickly. Put your partner's name on them, and that's what you're going to be looking for. We're going to read two stories. Look at it. What is culture? What is culture? That's one of your questions. Is it specific to a certain culture? What was the culture of the monkey's paw? Where was it? So that was their culture. Was it plain? All right, let's go ahead and start this. This is Seven Ravens, and it's by the Grimm's brothers. Has anybody ever read this? There once was a man who had 7 sons but no daughter. Soon his wife had another child, and at last it was a girl. The man was overjoyed, yet the child was so weak and frail that she had to be baptized at once. So what theme already is the same? What's one of the recurrent themes that you see?
Sadness?
Yes, and what makes you sad? Yeah. She was really sick, and when Herbert died, they were devastated. So death, we are going to talk about death. Oh, later in the week, we are going to listen to some songs that talk about fate and free will. We're going to look at pictures. We're going to look at animal rights. We've got stuff to last us through the summer, so y'all have to come back when school's out. Okay? Okay. Quickly, the father sent one of his sons to the well for water. The other 6 soon followed. Each one wanted to draw the water for the baptism of their new sister. But as they quarreled over the water pitcher, it fell into the well. Frightened, they didn't dare go home. If you dropped a water pitcher in your well at home, would you be afraid to go home? Yeah, I see you guys going, no? So what does that tell you about the family? What is their socioeconomic status? Yes, they're poor. They have one pitcher. We don't dare go home. What time period is it if they are drawing water?
1700?
There's no running water, so there's no plumbing. Okay, so this is the culture. Are you warm? It is a little warm in here. The father grew impatient waiting for his sons. Angry and afraid the baby girl might die unbaptized, he cried, "I wish they would all turn into ravens!" Okay, so he's a steady character, then all of a sudden he freaks out. So what kind of character do we think that might be? The static stays the same. Who said round? Speak up, boy. Yes, round character. He sort of contradicts himself. These are his sons. Does he really want them to turn into ravens? No. Probably not. Maybe for a moment. Maybe your parents might spout off something to you every now and then, but they don't really mean it. No sooner were the words spoken than he looked up and saw 7 coal-black ravens flying overhead. "Oh no, what have I done?" he said. But the poor man could not undo the curse. The man and his wife were saddened by the loss of their 7 sons, but they soon found comfort in their daughter. The pretty girl grew stronger and more beautiful every day. For a long time, the girl did not even know her brothers existed. But one day, she overheard someone talking. The person said that she was the one to blame for the misfortune of her brothers. Those words made her very unhappy. The girl went to her father and mother and asked if she ever had had any brothers, and if so, what had become of them. Her parents could no longer keep their secret. Her brother's tragedy had been an act of fate, they said, and she was not to blame. Okay, so Dad thinks that the brothers are going to turn into ravens no matter what. Is that right? Fate. What is our definition of fate? A word meaning something awful is about to happen. So he says, honey, it is not your fault. It was going to happen anyway. Fate. Fate. Like you don't have any say in it. But from that time on, the girl's conscience tormented her. She felt she had to do whatever she could to find her brothers. So one day she slipped away from home and went into the world in the hope of finding them. All she took with her was a ring that belonged to her parents to remember them by, a jug of water, a loaf of bread, and a little stool to sit upon when she was tired and needed rest. The girl traveled on and on, farther and farther, until she reached the end of the world. She journeyed to the sun, but it was much too hot to approach, and she thirstily drank her water. She ran quickly away. She went to the moon, but it was too cold and gave her an awful chill. Shivering, she ate her bread. So she kept traveling until she came to the stars, who were cheerful and kind. The Morning Star, okay, so look at your sheet of paper, talk with your partner about which elements this story already has that is like the whites. Okay, put both your names on it. If you need to ask each other a question, you can start with this. This reminds me of, if you can't get the cost, okay? I agree because, I should be tearing it up. That's good, need that? We'll ask each other those, that reminds me of, I agree because. If you need to. Okay, we'll have to in our Are you all done? Have you gone through each one of those?
Hey, Ray. What? Do you have to answer this?
Yes. I want you to tell me how it's like a monkey's paw. What can you say? You can't talk about the lesson of the moral yet, but answer as many of them as you can. What is a pound? $50 per pound. 1 pound is $250. A pound. Remember, he asked for, I'll take 200 pounds. That's their money. That's their money. So $2.50. Yes. Well, in England, that's what their money is. Yes. Yeah. You can't answer the one about the moral or the lesson yet, but there are other ones that you can answer. Okay? Yeah, because we can all go to the sun and the moon, right?
Yes, totally. Absolutely.
It's magic. You have magic paper.
Absolutely.
Okay. Girls, are you ready? Have you got your answers down? All right. Let's take a break. Eyes up here. So here's another little thing that's different about this story. They're keeping it kid-friendly. Waiting on you. Okay. So she kept traveling until she came to the stars, who were cheerful and kind. The Morning Star gave her a tiny key and said, "With this key, you can enter the glass mountain, the place where you will find your brothers." The girl took the key and carefully wrapped it in a cloth. She traveled on until she came to the glass mountain, where the entrance gate was indeed locked. The girl took out her cloth and unfolded it, but the tiny key was gone. What was she to do? I mean, she's gone all this way. The sun, the moon, the stars, and now she gets to the dadgum glass mountain and she can't get in. So what would she do? Determined to save her brothers, which, remember the word determined, and tell me whether you think that is fate or free will. To save her brothers, the good sister reached out her slender little finger and bravely put it into the big lock. Now, in the real story, what do you think happened to her finger?
He got cut off.
She comes out with a place, so she has a finger. The gate opened. Just then, a dwarf approached her and said, "What are you looking for?" "My brothers, the 7 ravens," she replied. "My 7 lords of ravens are not home," he answered. "But if you wait, they will return soon." Then the dwarf set the table with the ravens 7 little dishes and 7 little cups. The girl was so hungry that she ate a morsel from every plate and a sip from every cup. Suddenly, with a whirring of wings, the ravens arrived. Running to hide, the girl dropped the ring she had brought with her in the last cup. The ravens went straight to their dinners. Each one said, "Who has eaten from my plate and drink from my cup. It is a human mouth. Now, an allusion is something that is referring to another text. What does that remind you of? Who's been eating from my bowl?
The three little pigs.
Not three bears.
Goldilocks is the three bears.
Pigs and bears. When the seventh raven got to the bottom of his cup, the ring tumbled out. He realized that it was his parents' ring and said, "If only our sister might be here, at last we would be free of the spell." Now, how many other stories can you think of if just there was one kiss or just one touch, things would be undone, the magic would be undone?
All of them.
All of them? Give me an example.
Snow White, Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty, my favorite.
Frozen. Grizzly Bear.
White snow.
All right. So the girl was hiding behind the door, heard his wish, and stepped out. Immediately, the ravens took on their human form. There stood her 7 brothers. They hugged and kissed and happily returned home. So, what about the number 7? Remember, in folk tales, there's usually a number. What could 7 mean? Have you done this research? Have you found this one?
I just know about fairy tales because I read a lot.
Yeah.
Seven is like a lucky number.
It's a lucky number, but where does, quote, luck come from?
Number 7.
Well, one of the things that I found was that man is supposed to be represented as 666 in the book of Revelation.
That's the mark of the beast.
Okay, but that's also man. We're supposed to have 666. So what's one higher than 6? 7. The people left here, 666. So one higher up is 7. So do you think maybe that has anything to do with it? With them, the 7 heaven? I don't know. Just say. I don't know. Read Revelations. It's a good study. All right, so go ahead and finish filling out your papers. What is the lesson of the moral? I want you to tell me in number 1, girls. Number 1, make sure you answer whether it is fate or free will. That is the main thing I want you to decide. You two have to decide. You cannot be, well, it's kind of free will and it's kind of fate. Remember, in persuasion, you have to pick a side. So pick a side and tell me why. You have to justify why. Tell me. Jamaica.
Amy's up. Jordan. Amy's up. Yeah, I said.
Australia.
No?
If you're having trouble deciding, look in that second box.
It doesn't.
I understand you correctly. I like how you
High five the first time and forever.
Tell me why. Why do you think that? What are some examples of it you think were everything? So are the wishes fate or is that free will? Don't ask me. If you forget, here's the definition. Free will is possibilities you can change your path. Here's good and here's evil. Okay? Good and evil. That you can change your path. In America, you can be anything you want to be. Is that fate or free will? Or does somebody just decide, like you're in China and they decide when you're little, oh look, this one's got no attention deficit, this one's got attention deficit. Let's go put him over here and have him cutting the grass and working on blah, 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 blah. No, you can work on those things. Free will.
This one is free will?
No, but literally.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
that.
saying. And then fate means something awful will happen no matter what you do.
So this story is fake?
You tell me. Those are your definitions. Yes, Octobriana just asked me, is this by the Grimm's Brothers? We watched a movie. The Grimm's Brothers saw all these folk tales that were blah, 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 oral tradition, and they decided to just start writing them down.
That would be a good example.
Yes, that was a great example. All right, how much time do you need? 1 minute. You are your universe is fate versus free will, death, family, greed, migration.
It's on. You should drop that would be just
Whichever, whenever you think it is. All by yourself.
Was it fake?
So exaggerated details. Are there exaggerated details? What is an exaggerated detail? If I exaggerate, if I tell you, I went fishing on Saturday, I caught a 16 pounder. I'm exaggerating. And this story, was there exaggerated details? Can we go to the sun?
Look up Mona Lisa and
What about her feet?
Audrey was on with. Yeah,
Alright, what'd you get? Fate, free will. Yes. On the story that you just read, is it fate or free will? Okay, why? Why do you think that?
The dad thought they would be last.
So you think it was fate, no matter what happened, they were still gonna turn into ravens at some point? Maybe they'd meet a witch in the forest or something? You don't think that okay, that's fine. What you think? Free will, why?